Okay, my name is Victor Gonzalez. I'm a fifth grade Russell science teacher at Russell Elementary. Can you guys introduce yourselves real quick?
My name is Dominic Martinez, and I'm from Russell Elementary.
My name is Jose Jimenez. I'm a fifth grader in Russell Elementary. My name is Neymar Simmons. I'm a fifth grader in Russell Elementary.
Iván Rodriguez, and I'm a fifth grader from Western Elementary.
My name is Jose Ortega. I'm a fifth grader in Russell Elementary.
Okay, so we're all gathered here because we want to talk a little bit about three major processes that happen to landforms, and those are weathering, erosion, and deposition. Okay. Not only are we going to talk about those three processes, but we're also going to talk about how they cause Earth's landforms, which are the shapes of the Earth, to change over time. Okay. So by the end, you should know what those three processes are and what some of those agents of change are. Okay. And well, let's get started. So go to Google Classroom real quick again. And then when you go to Google Classroom, what I want you to do is I want you to find the assignment that says um, weathering and erosion. Click on it. And then go ahead at the top, go ahead and click and say, wait, open it with Google Slides. I think we had already done that earlier, right? Can you show us real quick your laptop so that way I can see that you have it? Okay, excellent. Very good. So what we're gonna do now is I also gave you a couple forms at the beginning of the lesson, right? In there we have a couple of examples of how rocks can be weathered, eroded, and how the deposition can take place in them, in the landforms. We'll also have some questions that you will fill in as part of your observations that we do when we work with models that are on top of your workstation. And then at the end we'll take a little exit test to see if you guys understood the lesson. Everybody good?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, let's go. So let's go ahead and get going with that slide. Go ahead and go into the third slide real quick. I only want you to read the first column real quick to Mr. Dominic.
Weathering, the process where rock is worn away or broken into smaller pieces. Think of a hammer that can break things with the right force.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on that hammer, and then you go ahead and drag it over to the weathering column. Okay. Go ahead and read the next one, Jimenez, please. Nice and loud.
Erosion, the movement of the broken pieces of rock that have been caused by weathering. Think of a broom sweeping the pieces away.
Thank you, Jimenez. So go ahead and click on the broom, and let's go ahead and drag that because I'm gonna use that several times throughout the lesson. Remember that hammer is what? Weathering, and erosion is the broom, right? Which is the moving of sediment, correct? And one more thing that I forgot to mention is remember that once the rock is broken into pieces, what do we call those pieces?
Sediment.
Oh, it's sediment. Okay, excellent. So let's go on to the second slide. Let's go ahead and watch the video. But before watch the video, can you read the questions? Because the answers to those questions are going to be in the video. Can you read the first question, please, Mr. Ortega?
Weathering. Weathering can be caused by water, air, chemicals, plants, and plants.
And some answer, right? Can you read the next one, please, Jimena?
What helps clean up the mess made by weathering?
Very good.
Moving blank is a major cause of erosion.
Thank you, Maymar. The next one, please.
True
Amen.
or false? Weathering and erosion can cause on the Earth's surface to change dramatically.
Okay, moving blank is a major cause of erosion. The last one? Did you read that one?
Yes.
Okay, my bad. I'm getting ahead. So let's go ahead and watch the video real quick. And let's see if we can get the answers to those questions. Okay, so hopefully that helped a little. Let's go ahead and go back to Google Classroom and see if we can fill in the answers, right, for this one. So, what is the first one? It says weathering can be caused by water, air, chemicals, plants, and animals. So we would go in there and we would type in animals, right? Go ahead and do that real quick. And then, of course, these are your vocabulary words, right? What would be the next one? What helps clean up the mess made by weathering?
Erosion.
Erosion. So you would type in erosion, right? And then just for demonstration purposes, there we go, right? And of course, the next one, moving blank is a major cause of erosion. Moving, most of the earth is made of water, so we would say that water would be the major cause of sediment movement. And then the last one, true or false, weathering and erosion can cause the earth's surface to change dramatically.
True.
That is true. You saw that in the pictures, right? So you would write down true on that one. Okay. Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Let's go on to the next one. Let's see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try and see if we can put those pictures in the right columns, whether they belong on either weathering or onto the column for erosion. Okay, can you do that real quick? I'll give you a couple minutes. Work together as a team. And go ahead and discuss, right? Remember, weathering is what? Breaking. Erosion is the what?
Moving.
So look for keywords, right? Discuss it real quick. And remember, don't just give each other the answers. Explain why it's weathering. Explain why it's erosion.
What if we use this lots of fun over time? It goes to the production and it's back.
This one's a breaks. It breaks apart. It breaks into weathering.
Weathering.
Wind wears down, pouring down, breaking it down. Acid rain comes down. This one goes water washing
No, it's not. It's
weathering.
it's weathering. Just makes it
Okay, before we move on to the next thing, because I think the majority of you are done, right? Um, I should have asked you this earlier, but do you have any questions about what you think might be weathering, erosion, and deposition? Do you have any questions that you might have about any of those processes? Something that you might not know, but you're interested in knowing? Any questions? Anything? Anything that you might be wondering about? No? Okay, well then as we go along, make sure that if you have any questions, just make sure you ask them, all right? Okay, so what was the first one? Water washed away land. What would that be? That would be erosion. The keyword is washing away. Wind broke down rock.
weathering.
The keyword is what? Broke. Okay. Water washing away rock. The keyword for that would be washing. So that would be what? Weathering or erosion? Erosion. How about this one? Water freezes and breaks apart rock. The keyword is
Breaks.
break. So where do we put that?
Weathering.
Weathering. How about for this landform? Wind blowing sand dunes.
Erosion.
Why is it erosion?
Because it's blowing.
Right, it's moving and carrying sediment. It's blowing it. How about acid rain eats away rock?
Weathering.
That's weathering. Because remember that through chemical weathering, rocks can also be broken apart. It's what we call dissolving. All right. And then the wind wears down rock. The keywords are
Wears.
wear down, which it means what? Weathering or erosion?
Weathering.
Weathering. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Um, we're supposed to distinguish the difference between physical and chemical weathering, but if we do, it's going to take a little while. Just remember that physical weathering is the breaking of rock, like a hammer, right? And chemical would be more like a dissolving, like water dissolving minerals in rock, and that over time breaking the rock into pieces. Okay. Let's go into the differences here. Again, you have a physical weathering column and a chemical weathering column. All I want you to do is to just click and drag and show me if you know the difference. Remember, physical is breaking, right? By some sort of physical method, and chemical is like dissolving.
Uh, flattened regular break apart Earth's surface is physically breaking by going to the planet.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yes.
What goes under physical weathering?
The wind blows sand into structures, causing them to wear down.
Right. Okay, that would be an example of physical weathering. What else?
The
Rainwater
freezes and
freezes
breaks
and
it
cracks.
apart.
Which one?
It's under the
This
sun.
one, right?
Yes.
And I gave you an example of that, didn't I?
Yes.
Can you show me real quick what that example is? Okay, excellent. And then, Jimena, can you explain to me why or how that rock is being broken or weathered apart?
The ice in there is constantly freezing, melting, and freezing, melting, which causes the rock to eventually break.
Okay, what is that process called?
Wedging.
Wedging, exactly. That's water constantly going in between the crack of a rock and then expanding and freezing. And give it time, that water doing that over and over inside a rock, it'll break apart, it'll weather, which is what we see right here in this example, right? And then, of course, what would also go, where does this one go? That acid causes mountains. That would be chemical weathering, right?
It is also
Yeah, it's dissolving. How about this one? Rainwater does make this rock decay.
Chemical.
This is chemical, yes, because there's some dissolving. How about this one? Plant roots break apart Earth's surface.
physical.
Physical. And the last one, acid rain is eating away the structure. Again, dissolving chemical changes. Okay, excellent. Let's go on to the next one. So now we're going to work on erosion.
You put the, I think you read the rainwater rock. You put the rainwater has made this rock decay in the chemical weathering.
Did I put it in the wrong spot? All right, let's see. Acid rain caused this mountain. Now that one, this one
Yes,
has made this rock decay. Okay,
that's rainwater.
yes, you're right. Because rain does dissolve. You're right. So this one is no, it is in the right spot.
No, it's just because it dissolves the rock.
Yeah, it's dissolving the rock. Exactly.
Change dissolving.
Exactly. You see, you can see on the picture how the rock is being dissolved because there's holes in it. It's making a porous. Okay, so that would be more chemical weathering than it would be a physical. Okay. All right, moving on. So let's go into erosion. Erosion, if you remember correctly, is a movement, right? Of sediment. Can you read that one for us, Maymar, please?
Erosion occurs when rocks and sediment are moving from one place to another. Ice, water, wind, and gravity are the forces that cause erosion to happen. They can help prevent erosion from occurring by planting trees and other plants. The roots keep the soil contained, unable to be carried away.
Okay, excellent. So in our web right here, it says that the forces that cause erosion are gravity, wind, and there are two that are missing. What are the two that are missing
Water,
according to our little passage there? It's what?
water,
So go ahead and type in water for that one. And then what's the other one that we're missing right there at the bottom?
ice.
Ice. There you go. So one is water, and the other force of change, because I'm just spelling words all over the place. Water. I did it again. 1, 2, 3. No. And then the bottom one, it's ice. Yes. Excellent. Okay, let's move on. So in your sheet, I gave you another copy though. You see that in a second, it's another visual of how erosion occurs. Can you explain how erosion occurs in that visual, Maymar? Or maybe better yet, do Mr. Jimenez, the second picture.
Erosion.
Can you turn the picture around and show it to us? Can you show us how erosion is taking place in that visual?
The water is eroding the sediment in this picture.
So what is the water doing?
It's flowing through and bringing
we're not talking about deposition. We're only talking about erosion. So yeah, you're right. And into the deposition, but we're talking about how the water flows, and as it flows or moves, it carries the sediment. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Let's go on to the next slide. So you have to type your own definition of erosion now. Go ahead and type it in, and then I'll ask one of you to share. I'll give you a couple seconds. Are we ready to share? Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Who wants to share? Okay, you want to share, Ortega? Okay, can we share real quick? Turn around, Mr. Ortega. Yes.
Erosion. When something moves sediment to a different location.
And whatever that something is, what is that something? What could it be?
It could be
Water,
wind, water,
or any agent of change. Like you were saying, it would be any what?
any wind, water, uh, ice cubes, right?
It could also be gravity, right? Pulling things down. It could also be the biotic, which would be what? Animals and plants, right? So yeah, very good. Okay, let's go on to the last one, deposition. Deposition. Can you help us with that one, Mr. Martinez, please?
Deposition. Deposition is when sediments that are picked up due to erosion get in deposit or dropped off in
In
a
a
different
different
location.
location, exactly. So in that case, it would be more like a, say, for example, you have your weather, which is the hammering, the erosion, the broom, and then the depositing would be like kind of like a bucket wherever that sediment gets dropped by or dropped into or where, right? Okay, in your packet, you also have another picture, another visual that shows you deposition. Who has not shared with us one of those pictures, one of those visuals? You have it? Okay, but in the rest of you, there are only three, so who hasn't shown the others? You? Ahmad, you want to explain that one for us, please? Can you turn the picture around and show it to us and explain it?
This, like force goes up. This happens when a river erosion by a river goes to the ocean slows down and deposited sediment to form a delta.
Very good. So it's the river that does the erosion first, right? And then the river, when it encounters the ocean water, it slows down and it drops everything that it was carrying. That's the deposition. And the landform that is created because the river is depositing sediment is called a delta. D for delta, right? Excellent. Very good. So we're gonna finish with that, conclude with that. Now what I want us to do is we want to create a model now of weathering, erosion, and deposition. So what you have in front of you is you have some soil on a tray, and what I want you to do is you're gonna get. We also have a little bit of water on this side over here, and I want you to use that water to show us the three main processes of weathering, erosion, and deposition. But what I want you to do is I want you to turn around and go on this side because that way we can see what's going on in the model. So let's just turn around. Let's go ahead and go ahead and come over here on this side, quick. And then go ahead and bring the water, Ortega. There you go. This side, we're missing. There we go. And then on this side, I want you to pour some water right through the middle of that. And then you're going to do the same thing on that side. Go ahead and do it. And then discuss real quick what's going on with that water as you pour the water right through the middle of the mark. Slow, 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 slow. Easy. There you go. You move this way so that way you can see it this way. You know, keep going, keep going. That's more. Keep going right through the middle. Easy. All right. Okay. Move the water right through the middle. There. All right. Go through the middle. All right. Excellent. Stop, 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 stop. So real quick, I have What I have now is I have a couple of pencils that show you or demonstrate the three main processes. What are the three main processes? With erosion and deposition. So here's a deposition for you, erosion for you, and weathering, another weathering for you. And then over there, you three, over there you have the three processes. So what I want you to do real quick is I want you to put those pencils where you saw the three processes take place. So go ahead and put them in there. There you go.
And that deposit.
Go ahead and put it sideways if you want. That way. There you go. And deposition. Excellent. So, just looking at your models, right, you could see where the three main processes are taking place real quick, right? You see weathering, erosion, and deposition. Okay, excellent. Go ahead and take a seat back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to write down the answers to those questions that we just saw right now. So, there we go. So on your sheet, go ahead and take a look at your sheet. We're going to fill in the sheet that's titled observations on there. And on your observations, all I want you to do is I want you to write down what you noticed happened when you added water to the tray. And what does that have to do with weathering? That's question number one. Number two focuses on erosion. And question three focuses on what?
Where did the material get
Deposition. Right? So go ahead and write down your answers. Write down, answer the questions, and then we'll talk about it in a couple minutes. And then remember, discuss it. Go ahead and share. You're more than welcome to share with each other. Okay? And as you write, normally what we would do is we would break this up into stations. We would have one station that would show you how weathering works. But since we only have four of you, we can't do it. But four would is like I was saying, one station would focus on weathering. Like for example, sugar in a bag and how that sugar would be broken up into pieces. On the second station, we could create landforms like this where we would see the water being moved or eroded from one place to another. And then at another station, we could actually set up some trays with sand and then see maybe we could move the sand around with wind or fan and see where the sand gets deposited, right? And so on and so forth. But again, since we only have four, we did it all together as one of these trays that we just saw right now. Okay, so you guys ready to share? No? Couple more seconds? Okay, no worries. Okay, put your pencils down and then we'll continue. So, what we saw in this model is if weathering breaks down rocks into sediment and erosion moves the sediment through wind or water, then what happens? If weathering breaks it, erosion moves it around, then what happens? Deposition happens, right? Deposition happens, or will happen, when the movement slows and the materials dropped at the base of the tray, right? This could also be a really good model for what landform? A canyon or a valley. And then it could also be a really good model for what other landform? where the sediment is dropped at the bottom. What is it?
A delta?
A delta.
Deeper delta.
Everybody understand that part? Okay. So that those are kind of the answers to your questions. What's the first question too, Mr.
What did you observe?
For weathering, right?
Mhm.
Can you give us the answer?
The dirt broke down to pieces for the
Okay.
sediment.
Okay. Can you answer the second question real quick?
How did the sediment move? The sediment moved by the water carrying it.
Okay, very good. Okay, over there, my mark. The third question.
Where did the materials ended at the bottom of the pit?
Okay. And then there's one more, right?
No, that's all.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like we were saying, if the weathering and erosion moves the sediment and then the deposition happens and drops it in a new place, um, but what could probably cause that weathering and erosion to change? What could we do to the
Luna
water
Gonzalez, please report to
to
the
cause
office. Luna
the
Gonzalez,
landform to
please
change
report to
quicker?
the office.
We could change what about the water? Instead of pouring it
Instead of pouring it from like the height,
slowly,
you can pour it faster.
and if we were to pour it a little faster, what would happen to your landform? Right, the landform would get deeper, and then maybe it would even get what? Wider over time. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if we change some of the variables and how that landform is created, that canyon can change its shape either faster, or it might be what? Slower, or it might be causing it to get deeper or wider, whatever the case may be. Okay? Everybody good with that? All right. So what we need to understand is that these three processes are what? Can they all work separately? No, they're all what?
They're all in a cycle.
They're all connected, aren't they? Right? You can't have weathering without what?
Erosion.
And then you can have deposition without what?
Without weathering.
Weathering or
Erosion.
erosion. So they're all interconnected, right? They're in some way or another they all happen, right? Uh, Sequentially, like he said, in a cycle. All right, great. Do you have any questions so far for me? Are we all good? Are you sure?
Yes,
Are there any questions that you might have that you may have thought about as we were doing the landform presentation and the PowerPoint over here? Any questions? Come on, there's got to be one question. Anything? Yes, Jimenez?
How is the acid created in the rain?
Oh, how's the acid created in the rain? Well, it's not necessarily, we're not focusing on how the acid is created in the
Kendra
rain.
Arrest and Orlando Espinosa,
What we
please
care
report
about
to
is what
daycare.
does it do to the rock.
Kendra Arrest and Orlando Espinosa,
Hopefully
please
they're done
report
with
to
the
daycare.
announcements. What we care about is what the acid does to the rock. And like the acid, what it does and what we focus on is mostly on the dissolving of the rock. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Okay. And then, of course, remember that in nature, in this case, we focused on water flowing, which would be like a river in nature, right? But what could we probably also use to change the shape of the land besides just flowing water? Okay, we could do wind for sure. And we could change the rate of the wind, right? Blow it soft versus really fast versus
Israel
slow, right?
Jimenez, please
What
report
else?
to bus area.
Huh?
Israel Jimenez, to bus.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. You could change the height, right? The steeper the height, the more weathering and erosion, right, that could occur. Or maybe ice, right? We could change. What about the ice? What could change about the ice that would change the landform?
The shape.
Okay, I know that the shape would be like a U shape, but how could I change the land by changing something about the ice? What could I change about that ice? Remember, in the river, it was like flowing it slow or fast.
Andrea and Jimena Rodriguez,
Maybe adding
please
more
report
water
to
or less
daycare.
water, right?
Andrea and Jimena Rodriguez, to daycare.
So what could I do to ice? Ice could be what? Maybe wider, right? Or
Change the size to
right.
make it go faster.
So all of these things play a factor in how the landform has changed over time. See what I mean? Okay. All right. So with that in mind, do you guys have last chance? Any questions? Let's take the exit test right now. Let's see if you guys understood everything. So if you go into your sheet, you'll find an exit test. Can you show us that exit test real quick, Ortega? Pick it up. There you go. So it's made up of a question where you have to answer with a couple of sentences, right? It's an open constructive response question, and then you have three multiple choice questions. Can you do them real quick, and let's see if you understood the lesson real quick. And since you two are working together, you guys can discuss it. Okay, don't just write down the answer, but discuss it together.
You can change the shape of land. What do you do? You go down the cost of the
And then they call you, Mika? Go ahead and, it's fine, I understand. Go ahead and leave, and then just leave it there, and we'll discuss tomorrow, okay? Thank you, Jimena, for helping.
Maybe my laptop here.
Yes, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it for you. Bye. And don't forget to do the multiple choice questions, okay?
We'll do these two or no?
No, just the assessment will be done at the end of the week, okay? We're only working on the exit ticket just to see if you understood the lesson for today. The assessment comes at the end of the week. Okay, you guys ready? Okay, go ahead and put your pencils down and let's see if we can answer these questions real quick. Put your pencils down, please. So the first question is explain how water, wind, or plants can change the shape of the land. And you're supposed to give me a couple sentences explaining that. Well, and include the vocabulary words, right? Okay. Who wants to volunteer and give us the answer? Mr. Ortega, go ahead.
Water, wind, and plants can change the shape of land over time by weathering, eroding, and depositing it. It does all these three movements by either moving or breaking it down, like weathering, and eroding it and depositing it by moving it like wind, water, and ice.
Very good. That's a really good answer. You guys want to add to that one? Tú, Jimenez?
Water, wind, plants can change land over time. This process occurs in the land called weathering, erosion, and deposition. These can be made up of water, wind, or plants and different other processes. This affects the land over millions of years.
Excellent. I like how you added the millions of years part. Yes.
I, the way water, wind,
Speak a little bit louder.
the way water, wind, or plants can change the shape of the land over time is that they can whatever they are or deposit it to create a new land.
Excellent answer. Very good. So let's look at the question multiple choice real quick. What is the leading cause of rocks breaking into smaller pieces over time? Martinez?
It's weathering.
Very good, sir. Number two, which of the following best describes erosion? Go ahead, Mr. Ortega.
C, movement of sediment.
Movement of sediment. And the last one, Miss Mymore, What landform is created when rivers deposit sediment at their mouth?
The delta.
Yeah, the deltas. And then you could have used your visuals, right, also to help you out with that, correct? Okay, excellent work. You did great. So just remember that by Friday, we're going to take another test focusing on these three main processes. So just to review, remember that weathering, erosion, and deposition are important processes that change the shape of the earth. These shapes of the earth are called what? Landforms. Can you remind me real quick what weathering is? Weathering is
Breaking down.
breaking the rock. Erosion is
Sweeping it up.
sweeping or moving of the sediment. And deposition?
Dropping the sediment.
Dropping of the sediment. Exactly. And all those happen over millions of years to change the Earth's surface. Excellent job, guys. Thank you very much. You guys are free to go. Excellent work.
What do you keep?
You can keep.